Welcome everyone to a new video where this time we are going to talk about all those things you need to keep in mind for your Camino de Santiago. If you agree, we will divide the video into two parts. First, moments before starting the journey. And as a second part, everything you need to keep in mind during the journey. So before we start, I just want to ask you to subscribe, as it really motivates me to see that these videos are useful to you. And here we go. Let's talk about all those things you need to keep in mind before doing the Camino de Santiago. And the first and most important is that you should not buy new sneakers. You are not the first, nor will you be the last, to arrive at Decathlon to possibly buy some trekking poles and see some really cool hiking boots or the latest sneakers and think, since I'm here, I'll take them. Completely inadvisable. In the end, you will be walking many kilometers and you will need sneakers that are adapted to your foot, that you have already broken in a bit, and that do not hurt you. Otherwise, you will really be in for a surprise. Secondly, the mindset. Come with a completely blank mind. You don't know what you are going to encounter. In the end, each person experiences the journey differently. Each one arrives at a different moment in their life. Some people come to disconnect, while others come to meet new people. In the end, it is something that is super personal and affects each person's experience. Don't think that you will come here and live what everyone else lives. I'm telling you, it's something very individual. And this leads me to connect with another point, which is that everyone says that the journey should start far from Santiago, that the last 100 kilometers don't count, and I don't know what else. In my opinion, for a first experience, I completely advise against it because in the end, the people who come with a bit of a blank mind. They don't know what they're going to encounter. They don't know if it will be their thing. I can tell you that in the end, everyone has a good time, but each one has their own experience. So what happens? If you get into the last 100 kilometer, you will have all those services, all those facilities that already have a somewhat more developed infrastructure, and you will be able to get an idea of what the Camino itself is. Then, if you like it, there are 1,000 things to do. You will have the option to take 1,000 trips on the Camino de Santiago that will offer you completely different experiences. But to start, my recommendation is to go back to the basics. Start from Sarria, start from Tui perhaps, or to give you another option, start from Lugo and do the Primitivo route, for example. And now I'm going to tell you something that might clash a bit with what I said earlier because I was recommending that you do the last 100 kilometers since everything is a bit more controlled, okay? Now I'm going to tell you to go a bit more on an adventure. But now I'm mainly referring to meals, breakfasts, and those little things that I don't apply to accommodations because accommodations do give me quite a headache. The fact of saying I have a bed. I don't know if I will have a place to sleep, I don't know. But anyway, don't book meals and breakfasts, never have those kinds of things booked. Because in the end, during the journey, you are going to meet a lot of people. And what you will want in the evening is to go with those people for some drinks, to have dinner or whatever you want. And if you have your dinners booked, you won't be able to do those kinds of things. For example, I'm going to have dinner alone at my hostel, at my albergue, or wherever. It's really not worth it. In that case, a little bit of adventure is better, which ultimately connects a lot with what I want to discuss in the next point. And it's possible that you come with someone to do the journey, or, well, maybe you come alone, but if you come with someone, don't limit yourselves to just being with that person. I mean, stick with whoever you want, meet people. In the end, that's the beauty of this trip. So, as a quick summary, accommodations are better? Yes. Forget about meals. Next, a very important point, the weather conditions. We are in Galicia, and today it's January, and it's very sunny. But well, anything can happen here. You can have rain in July, or a spectacular day in April. In the end, you need to pack a bit of everything. It is true that if you are going to do the journey in April, you know you will need a sweatshirt for the mornings or for the night, and if you do it in July, then maybe you won't need it as much. But what cannot be missing at any time is the iconic Decathlon plastic of whatever you want, which is thin, lightweight, takes up no space, and saves you from getting rained on one day. And to finish the pre-journey section, I'm going to tell you the last thing you need to keep in mind, which is really quite important. Nowadays, you can do the journey almost however you want. You can stay in hotels, you can stay in hostels, you can stay in guest houses and pensions, in rural houses, absolutely whatever you want. The point is to be very clear about the differences between them, because in the end, it will depend a lot on how you want to do the journey. For example, if your goal is to meet people, hostels are great, but if you have a very light sleep or don't want to share a bathroom, it wouldn't be your option. In the end, you will do something that you won't love and that won't have the impact of the journey you really want to take. So I'm going to summarize it quickly so you have it clear. In hostels, you will end up sleeping with other people in the same room, you will have a shared common bathroom, and it is true that for those people who have light sleep and find it a bit difficult to sleep, this type of accommodation is not the most recommended. Then you have the option of staying in guest houses and pensions, which are like small hotels that have been really renovated lately and are very nice, and there you would have all privacy you want. And if that's not your thing and you want to stay in hotels, you can also go to hotels, which is the point. Of course, it will be more expensive, but in the end, everyone looks for what suits them while traveling. And now let's move on to the second part of the video with those tips that are good to have on hand while you are walking. And let's start with the first and most common and perhaps controversial, which is the use of blister pads. And if you get a blister, you can use the blister pad, but you have to use it wisely. In the end, what you are going to do is put a protective film over the wound. So if you don't take care of it and aren't attentive to changing it regularly, you will end up tearing it off, and that can rip off all the skin, which can be a disaster. So, for me, if you use it, it should be in places. Don't sweat too much. Imagine if it rubs against your heel or whatever, well, in that case, it might be worth it. But in the end, the most basic and best thing is to take a needle and betadine. In the end, you prick the blister, let all the liquid out, don't tear off the skin because that will be worse, put a little betadine on it and let it dry, and that might be the best option in case the skin falls off later and starts to rub. In that case, it might be worth using the blister pad. Another very important point, take good care of your back. Whether you are used to carrying luggage or not, if you want to carry it, if you want to carry a small backpack, clothes, whatever. Be very careful with weight distribution. Always put the heaviest items at the bottom of the backpack and not at the top. And don't overload it. In the end, you will feel it. It's several days of walking, and it's not the same to do it with back pain than to try to take care of that. And with that, I also recommend that upon arrival, after finishing the stage, in addition to stretching your legs, you stretch your back. It's a good point, especially if you tend to have any kind of back pain. Stop for a moment, 5 minutes, stretch a little, and the next day you'll feel like new. This is especially for those of you staying in hostels. And when you wake up in the morning, no matter what time it is, be careful not to make noise. If you can, set your phone alarm to vibrate. Others will appreciate it a lot. Don't be that typical person who gets up at 5 or 6 a.m. and starts packing the backpack. Leave it packed from the day before. We continue with the topic of taking care of your body. And here I'm going to group many tips together. And perhaps socks are more important than footwear. If you have good anti-chafing socks, they will help you a lot. Always keep a water bottle handy because staying hydrated will prevent you from having many other problems like cramps, etc. And above all, listen to your body. The journey is not a race. You don't need to adapt to anyone else's pace. You need to adapt to your own pace. You will surely find people who want to and will go at your pace. So don't worry about that. It's a journey for yourself, and focus on you. And lastly, the best advice I can give you is not to focus only on the path. The journey is not just walking. It's not just getting from point A to point B. Live the experience, stop at the bars, meet people, talk to the artisans. They will tell you 1,000 things and 1,000 stories and 1,000 super cool curiosities. In other words, the journey has an aura around it that I tell you is not just about walking from one place to another. So immerse yourselves in the culture, try the cuisine, and enjoy every day and every minute that is worth it. And with this, we will close this little video of advice. For those of you who have made it this far, thank you very much for putting up with me. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a like, which basically makes me happy, and leave us comments if you have already done the journey. Those kinds of things that perhaps I missed, but that you would have liked to know before embarking on that first adventure. See you in the next video and safe travels to everyone.